Hey, I'm Matthew, and at this point, I've been on the receiving end of some 50 case interviews and given another 50, and so I wanted to make a video of the 5 most common mistakes I see people do in case interviews. The first mistake I see people make is to leave their personality at the door of the interview or the beginning of the Zoom call or whatever. They come in and, like myself, it was clear they'd done so many interviews, but in a way they'd over-prepared and then were kind of like robots going through the interview. A quick way to combat this is to insert what a friend called special sauce. And so special sauce is bringing in a personal anecdote or some outside reading that is somehow applicable to the case interview. If you're doing a case interview about a technology company, you might talk about a recent chip shortage and how that might be affecting their growth. You can also draw in personal experience, like a relevant internship experience or something you've seen in your own life. It can be kind of fun. Having some inserted special sauce will bring in your personality. Another part of having some element of personality in a case interview is really just being conversational, smiling a lot, and trying to leave tension at the door. And approaching the case is not some gateway to a job you want, but rather a problem-solving session. Of course, this is easier said than done, but if you're able to shift your mindset to like, okay, this is really exciting, we get to approach a problem together, that will do a lot for the case interview. On a really practical level, one way to make an interview more conversational from the get-go is when you're explaining your framework. Instead of saying, here's my framework, we should look at the company, we should look at the competitors, we should look at the customers, you can literally say, okay, if I were the CEO in this situation, here are the 3 things that I'd be thinking about, and then go into them from there. I think having that mental framework of like, if I were the CEO of this company doing this tricky situation, what would I be doing, what would I be considering, both helps you to create a better framework. It also helps you to start the interview off on a more informal note, more conversational, which is where you want to be. Okay, a second common mistake I see people make, and I myself have made, is when they get to a math section, just bury your head in the paper, then try and crunch out the numbers, and then come out and say, okay, the company needs 45,000 early users, and the interviewer's like, no. And then you're just like, well crap. The way you combat this is to, it might seem silly, but to literally go through each step of the math you're doing out loud. So that way the interviewer knows exactly what you're thinking, what your approach to the math is, and they can clearly see, oh, that's where they got the number wrong, or oh, that's where their assumption might have been off. So while doing your math out loud is not the most intuitive thing, it's well worth practicing because it's for sure a best practice for case interviews. A third mistake that's really common in case interviews is losing track of the goal because you didn't properly understand it or document it at the beginning. So at the beginning of the case, they're giving you the prompt and they tell you what the goal is. XYZ Corporation wants to double their sales in the next 5 years. Or they might just say, how does XYZ Corporation drive sustainable growth? If you don't write this down at the top of your page, it's really easy to lose track of. So in all of my case interviews, I would write at the top, WCS, what constitutes success? And then I'd write the goal, double sales in 5 years, or drive sustainable growth. And then what does that really mean? Well, I would follow up with a question of how is our client defining growth? Do they want top line growth? Do they want profitability? What exactly does sustainable growth mean to them? So that way you know exactly the goal that you're going for. And when you have it written in big letters at the top of your paper, when you start to get in the thick of the interview and you start to think, what am I even talking about? Where is this going? Why am I saying these words? Then you can quickly look down at your paper and see, oh, that's the goal that we're going for. And that should reorient you back onto a solid case. A fourth mistake that I see people making pretty often, and that I myself also made, is to speak in the clouds. And what I mean by this is to just think at a really high level, which is good at times, and to never bring it down to tactical, tangible language. So what does that mean? Maybe you're thinking about an implementation plan where your client stops making a certain product and you're thinking about the risks for this situation. thinking, okay, well, there's the risk that competitors and customers may have an adverse reaction to this sudden shift in the market. It's like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Well, bringing things down to a tactical level, so bringing your thoughts out of the clouds would mean thinking about, okay, at a tangible level, what does not making a product anymore look like? Well, it means that some people who were formerly making the product will no longer be making the product and might expect to be retrained and relocated and put on a new product, or they might be entitled to costly severance packages or any number of things. If you stop making a product, your customers who were buying it from you might be upset, or they might be able to take you to court because you were contractually bound to make that product. That's like thinking at a very tangible level, bringing it out of the clouds. Maybe there was no contract, but now they're really upset and they feel like they can't trust you, so they stop purchasing other products from you. Or for your competitors, maybe they're able to step in and take that margin because now your customers need someone to fill that product, and your competitors step in, and suddenly like their fixed cost overall goes down because they're making a wider range of products, and they can start undercutting you in another product category. So that's taking one thought. If you stop making this product, there will be reactionary risks from your different stakeholders, and bringing it down to a very tactical, tangible level. So the fifth mistake I see people doing in case interviews is kind of meta, but that's where they're doing a case interview, but they're really just doing it because they don't know what else to do with their life post-grad. Like, there's this culture of, oh, do I do banking or do I do consulting? And these are my two options and I have to pick one. And neither of those actually sound good to the person, but they're just kind of doing it by default. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm super excited to have interned and be going into consulting. I think it's an amazing learning opportunity. I think it'll open up a lot of doors, and I genuinely enjoyed the work I was doing and the people I was working with during my internship. I'm thrilled to be going into consulting, but for a lot of people who are doing case interviews, that's not necessarily the case. It's more of a default option. And so it's really important that if you're doing case interviews, you don't make the mistake of just trying to go into consulting or banking because it's what all your friends are doing, but you actually dig into, okay, what would it mean for me to work in this industry? Is this something I actually want to do with a couple years of my life? Or would I truly be more passionate about going to Teach for America or Venture for America, where you go work at a different startup of some sort and get that sort of experience? Is consulting actually what I want to do, or am I just case interviewing because I don't know what else to do? If you're able to do something that you really want to do with more intentionality, that will be both better for your future employer and better for you. So just something to consider. Oh, and also, if you enjoyed the music that was kind of going on in the background, maybe check out my Spotify. I don't know, it's here. Okay, well, have a great day. God bless.